better remember mine.
Okay, Oscar fans, including my dog. The race is heating up after the Golden Globe and Critics' Choice winners have been announced. We've got 3 different films that have won Best Picture at these various groups. Three Billboards won the Golden Globe for Best Drama Film, accompanied by Lady Bird for Best Comedy Musical. And at the Critics' Choice Awards, both were upset by The Shape of Water. Joining me now are Amanda Spears, Tony Ruiz, Charlie Bright, Jack Field, and Rob Licuria. We are all contributors for Gold Derby. Amanda, let me start with you. What movie is going to win Best Picture based on what we've seen, based on BAFTA nominations, based on SAG nominations and PGA? What have you got predicted right now?
Right now, I'm going with Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. But I want to see what happens at PGA, DJ, and SAG, obviously. Because this year, we could see one film run the board, or we could see them kind of split up. It's going to be interesting, but if there was ever a year I wanted to see the 5 directors nominated for DGA go for the Oscar, this is the year. The problem is, and this just makes me sick, is that I did a whole gallery last year on actors nominated for directing for Best Director, and they don't nominate two in a year. That's never happened before. So my feeling is it's one or the other, with either Denis Villeneuve, Ridley Scott, or Steven Spielberg probably taking that spot.
What about Luca Guadagnino? Do you think he has a shot either?
He has a little bit of a chance, but I think the others just have more going for them. They've liked the biggest directorial accomplishment, and we just saw Villeneuve get that BAFTA nod, which I think was surprising to a lot of us. But, you know, Blade Runner is going to score around 7 or 8 nominations, which could sneak him in there and could sneak the film in. Remember, only Carol got 6 nominations without getting into Best Picture, without scoring a Best Picture nomination. So if it's really that favorite amongst the guilds, and if anyone's thinking, oh, she's crazy, I would start hoping for this, because it will extremely increase the likelihood that Roger Deakins will finally win cinematography. And if he can't win this year with a cinematographer as president of the Academy, that man should step down.
So you say Three Billboards. Tony, what do you think? People say this movie is too divisive to win Best Picture. And we've seen with the preferential ballot that having a movie that people either love or hate doesn't help. Certainly did not help last year with La La Land. What do you think? Is Three Billboards the front runner, or is another film the front runner?
I think it's a co-front runner. I've got Shape of Water winning right now, only because that might be a little bit of a less divisive film. It's certainly more. It's certainly got a more cinematic scope to it than Three Billboards, which feels very, it's certainly very local. But I think there's going to be a lot going on between now and then. Overall history says that Del Toro, who is probably going to win DGA, DGA usually goes on to win Best Picture, except in the last few years, we've seen a shift where Best Director and Best Picture don't necessarily line up. So I think that the divisiveness of Three Billboards makes it problematic, but that could change at PGA and SAG. Shape of Water certainly got the lion's share of the nods at DGA. I mean at BAFTA. So and with its wins, particularly at Critics' Choice, now it certainly has some more momentum going in. But I think it is ultimately going to come down to those two.
I'm predicting The Shape of Water right now, too. The thing that really gives me pause with that prediction, Charlie, is the fact that it is not a SAG Ensemble nominee. And no film since Braveheart has won Best Picture without a SAG Ensemble nomination.
And haven't we learned our lesson in the past 2 years?
We learned our lesson well with The Revenant, with Gravity. But this movie, it's likely going to be the most nominated film of the year. It might even tie with the most nominations of all time.
It could break the record.
It could if Michael Shannon gets in there. 15 nominations. It's going to have above the line and below the line support. Charlie, I mean, is the SAG ensemble stat going to matter? Is our winner going to be one of those 5 films?
Well, first of all, I want to say to Amanda that he was talking to me, and you can stop your female-splaining all of this to us, okay? We're perfectly able to understand everything.
What did I?
Oh, God, I missed it, guys. No, I have In the Fade winning Best Picture. But, no, I right now I think I still have Lady Bird winning Best Picture, but I need to go back in. I haven't changed my Oscar predictions since right before the Golden Globes. I think Shape of Water is looking to be a very solid pick. It's just that still that SAG ensemble nod not coming through is very troubling, because it is, I mean, last year we were trying to reason with ourselves, you know, La La Land really only had the 2 principals and John Legend, and then everyone else was really just bit players. This is a true ensemble film with A-list actors, very respected, and it's just so weird it didn't get in there. I'm not sure what to think about it. I think Three Billboards is going to be hurt by the preferential ballot. At least I think that as of right now. And I'm tempted. It would be interesting. You know, we were all convinced this year that we would see another split. But if there's one film that could actually pull it through in both picture and director, it looks like it would be Shape of Water.
Jack, what about Lady Bird, which won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Picture over Get Out, which is another movie that has done very well at the Guilds? I mean, this movie, I mean, it looked like a strong contender going into Critics' Choice last night, but it didn't win anything, not even in the categories.
Not a thing, and I think that does hurt it. I think Laurie Metcalf is still duking it out with Allison Janney for supporting. I mean, I don't have Lady Bird anywhere near the top of my list. I have it in, I think, 4th right now. Yeah, I think I have it in 4th. Because I think if anybody wants to go for the comedy, they would go for Get Out before they would go for Lady Bird. Because it's edgier and just, I mean, I look at Lady Bird as the kind of Juno Little Miss Sunshine movie of the year, which is beloved, is definitely going to be nominated, which everyone will like and will continue to like even after the Oscar season is over. But I don't think it's going to win. I just don't think it will.
Rob, let me ask you this, because you're a big fan of the movie, just like I am, and Daniel Liz, who's not here. What's going on with Dunkirk? Why is it, you know, I mean, it only won 1 award last night at Critics' Choice, and it was half an editing prize that was shared with Baby Driver. I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know what. I'm really disappointed, just like you, Zach, because it's really seems to have fallen off a cliff. And when I saw the Lee Smith half Critics' Choice win, I thought that's wonderful. Unfortunately, he should have won the whole damn thing, because Lee Smith's editing of that film was incredible and really probably one of the best things about the film. But look, 3 months ago, many of us were saying Dunkirk, Dunkirk, Dunkirk. There was a lot of noise from us about, well, Dunkirk's going to struggle in screenplay. It's going to struggle in the acting prizes, and we all know what that means. It means it's really a huge handicap for it to win the big ones. I still think Christopher Nolan is in there with a shot in directing, and we'll probably talk about directing later, I assume, Zach. And in fact, I've got some really interesting stuff to talk about in that category. But in film, with Dunkirk, it just seems that it will make it in as a nominee, and I think that's really all we're going to get out of that film. And that leaves me with this conundrum, because after listening to everybody's very interesting, cogent arguments, which is surprising because I know half of you are drunk. I'm wondering, like, we've got Three Billboards is divisive, although the people who love it really love it. The Shape of Water doesn't have an ensemble nomination, which we all know is really problematic. However, and it's also a very particular genre piece that gives me pause, without me even talking about my personal views on the film, because I had issues with that film as well. And Lady Bird doesn't seem to have the steam required for it to propel it to the front. And then what else is left? That's why when Jack said Get Out, I've been thinking about this for the last few days, and I would love to hear from anyone. And Zach, I'll obviously let you maybe come up with what you think. But I'm wondering, is Get Out completely like ridiculous for us to be thinking that could maybe in the next few weeks, God knows what's going to happen next, maybe could Get Out and do it, because it could pull off a Moonlight. A Moonlight was a small film that many people, granted, some people thought it was going to win, but many people thought it didn't have a shot. I'm thinking Get Out is stronger than many of us maybe might be giving it credit for.
Let's talk about Get Out, actually, because it's a movie that has stuck around since February and has proven to be surprisingly relevant in the past few days. People will say that it's just a genre film, it's just a horror movie, but at the same time, it is a really thought-provoking and creative examination of American racism, made from an insider perspective. The question is, like, how many awards can it win? We saw with Spotlight, you only need to win Best Screenplay. Jordan Peele could certainly win for screenplay over Lady Bird and Three Billboards and Shape of Water and Big Sick and whatever else is in the race. And, you know, the preferential ballot. This is a film that seems to be, if it's not your number one, it could either be your number two or your number three. Is it going to appeal, though, to the older members of the Academy? What do you guys think?
To some of them, I think it definitely might. I think there's probably some of them that, you know, that some of them that enjoy, you know, this type of horror comedy that has come up, and I think also with the new influx of members that could also give it an edge, especially with the 2 and 3 votes. Well, actually, no, especially with the number 1 votes, because I think a good bulk of those could go to Get Out. And I think that, you know, the original screenplay race is really, it's always been interesting, but this is really interesting now, especially having seen Mark McDonough win the Globe and Jordan Peele claim the Prize of Critics' Choice yesterday. So I think it's still one that should be looked at seriously.
And it could win the PGA, right? Because also, it's
and yesterday I actually predicted Get Out would win, and I started looking at the list of the members of the Broadcast Film Critics Association, and started looking up, you know, all the top 10 lists of everyone that I could find. And the one that had the most by a hair was Get Out. Lady Bird was a close second, followed by the Florida Project.
And this is an independent movie that was a huge box office success. If there's one thing the producers appreciate, it's making money. So can this win the Producers Guild Award? What do you guys think?
Well, not only do I think it win PGA, I also think, you know, Marcus posted an article that it could win SAG Ensemble.
Yeah, I think it will.
And it's
Three Billboards? Really?
I think it has a problem with SAG Ensemble because, you know what, it's gotten a lot of flack for, there's only 7 actors represented in that film up for Ensemble, and most of them are white. The actress who plays the maid is not included. Lil Ray Howery, who has the last line in the movie and one of the only, you could say, laugh out loud jokes, is not included also. So I think there is a little bit of an understandable backlash about that film maybe pulling off Ensemble.
But do you think that's I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
No. I was done.
Do you think that is attributable more to the rules about who is nominated for SAG Ensemble? As we know, you need to have a single title card, and that just speaks more to who has a better agent than somebody else. I think eventually that rule has got to change. It's just going to take, you know, for instance, a movie like Get Out getting nominated for Ensemble and Lil Ray Howery getting nominated for supporting, but not being the main cast.
I think that the rule needs.
I'm just saying, the other catalyst for that to change could be Get Out winning, and then people seeing, you know, that the maid, and then calling that out from the stage, which would be a justified thing, for my opinion, if it were to win.
But the Descendants had the same problem. Like it was considered a popular cast at the time also. where two of those little children who were in the film the entire movie weren't included, and that was enough of a backlash to keep them from winning. So I do think that it could be just a little bit enough of a hindrance to stop them. Plus, I like in this category to play 6 degrees of separation. Like, who's going to vote for who based on who they've worked with. So if you look at the cast of Three Billboards and you look at the cast of Big Sick, there's a lot of people who could just, you know, rack up a lot of votes. I mean, if you think about it, Peter Dinklage, he's probably going to bring over 90% of the Game of Thrones votes. And then you've got all of those people who've worked with all of those actors, those really well-liked actors. Lucas Hedges is in there, where he might split his support because he's looking good to win this. It goes one of two ways. But I think it's just maybe like the American Hustle cast, where it's just too strong, not only in its stars, but in its supporting second string kind of players, where it's going to win.
Could we, though, just looking at what's up at the guilds right now, remember 2015, it was Big Short won at PGA, Spotlight won at SAG, and The Revenant won the DGA. Could we see another year like that?
Absolutely.
This year, absolutely. Yeah, it's such an unpredictable year. I like it.
I think The Shape of Water could win. The Shape of Water could also win PGA because, you know, they made that movie for $19 million. It looks like it cost $200,
right?
Which, of course, they're going to love. All of the people below the line, for primarily this is going to be their first Oscar nomination, which means he went out and found these people. It's not like the all-star tech crew, which is kind of cool. So I think, you know, it's going to be unpredictable until the envelope's opened and then verified.
Let me pose this question about SAG real quick. Okay, so in the 4 acting categories, we had the same 4 winners at Globes and Critics' Choice. Well, I should say that Ronan and Franco won in the comedy categories at Globes, but Gary Oldman in Best Actor, Frances McDormand in Best Actress, Sam Rockwell in Supporting Actor, Rockwell, and Allison Janney in Supporting Actress. Are these our 4 SAG winners?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I think that people are saying, oh, Janney's a SAG favorite. Janney's a SAG favorite. Well, to be fair to Laurie Metcalf, by the time the SAG Awards started coming around, Roseanne was at the end of its run, and it wasn't very good those last couple seasons. So she never had a chance to contend herself. She was only nominated once as part of the ensemble. So we don't know yet how much she's liked by SAG. And if she's gonna make her move, this is it. She's got to do it now.
Right? I'm so surprised, actually. Aren't we all surprised that Allison Janney has become the favorite? Because 2 weeks ago, it was all about Laurie Metcalf, which is so exciting. I mean, they're both brilliant and fantastic performances. But when Allison won the Globe and then won Critics' Choice yesterday, it gave me pause and thought, well, man, if I was Laurie Metcalf's team, I'd be really worried about it now. It's all going to hinge on this SAG, I think.
Well, Laurie Metcalf's not making the rounds from what I understand, and Allison Janney is. She's at everything. She's smiling and meeting everybody. And, I mean, and yet she's being as nice as she can be. And then when you see her performance, she's this horrible person. So it's, I mean, I think Janney's at this
I was going to say, I mean, that's also, she's playing, sorry, Tony, I think you wanted to say something. She is playing the more flamboyant character. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I think SAG really will tell us a lot because to a certain extent, Janney and Metcalf, for all intents and purposes, go into SAG on equal footing because, you know, they've both worked with everybody. I mean, we're talking, you know, Laurie Metcalf, I mean, hello, she's been a mainstay of television, not just on Roseanne, but, you know, Desperate Housewives and then The Big Bang Theory, which is still the biggest show on television. You know, she comes with a cachet as a Tony winner this year. So there is certainly going to be, and she certainly is a respected 3-time Emmy winner. You know, Janney's a 4-time Emmy winner. they go in with a lot of different things. So I think SAG is going to tell us a lot. But the thing that makes me lean towards Janny is that Janny's is the more on the surface. It's the more flamboyant performance. It's the more transformative performance because she is made up to look just awful, to match her absolutely awful character. The woman is just spitting venom every moment she is on the screen.
It's a great performance.
It is.
I love it.
So there's so many factors, because, at the same token, Laurie Metcalf certainly plays a more endearing character.
And real. I think more. Sorry to interrupt you, Tony.
It's going to break my heart.
It's going to break my heart too if Laurie Metcalf loses.
And I think we need to remember she was popular enough just a couple years ago to score 3 Emmy nominations, and that ain't nothing. So
in 1 year.
Yeah, so that's got to show that she's popular enough.
There's more heart in her performance, right, Amanda? Yeah. Like there'll be the rooting factor.
Well,
there's a bit of explosiveness as well. She does kind of yell and scream a little, and she's a little mean to her daughter, and also very loving.
But she's mean in a way that most people can relate to.
Yeah, could it also be and you can make the same case for Janny as well, right? I, Tonya is proving to be more popular than people expected with the guilds.
Yeah,
getting a PGA and WGA. So both movies could very likely get nominated for Best Picture. In fact, they could also be nominated against each other in Best Actress, and including Best Supporting Actress and in Screenplay.
I have to plug the laptop in just a second.
Oh, no problem. Either one of them could be the wins for their movies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might come down to which film gets a Best Picture nomination. If I, Tonya, gets snubbed, then that might weaken Laurie Metcalf. That might weaken Allison Janney's chances. And frankly, when is Roseanne going to start re-airing? Is
April.
March 26th.
Oh, they should move that up. They should do it right now.
Or maybe they should. Who knows? It might work against her for all we know.
Well, it didn't hurt Matthew McConaughey to have True Detective running that first season.
Yeah, but that was critically acclaimed at the time. We don't know what this new Roseanne's going to be like.
Well, we're hearing that it's very good. Right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I'm hearing things.
It's that she's going to get another Emmy.
Because you're schizophrenic, Zach.
That's a whole other story, but yes.
We're not here to talk about his illness right now, okay?
Right.
That's for later.
Speaking of which, no.
But I think for Frances McDormand, just to go back to Best Actress, she's the only American nominated in that category. So if she does not win this,
does that matter?
It's never hurt. Like it didn't hurt Helen Hunt to take down
or Marissa Tomei.
Yeah, it's never.
And her speech at Globes. I mean,
pretty good.
She came away from Golden Globes like a rock star.
And also people who don't like the movie.
She didn't even have to come to Critics' Choice.
I still think that she's got to win SAG. Like regardless, she's probably not going to win BAFTA. I think that they might go Saoirse with that one.
But like what Zach just said is 100% right, because even if you have issues with the film, like for example, me, I have some issues with the film, but her performance is undeniable. Like it's just incredibly strong, and her speech at the Golden Globes was just amazing, transcendent. Like it's exactly where everyone's very angry right now. There's a lot of anger out there and frustration, and she embodies it. I can't imagine her losing. I was thinking maybe Margot Robbie had a shot. I was thinking Saoirse Ronan had a shot. I don't think they have a shot now. I think it's all about Frances.
I think that Saoirse, she didn't give enough of an endearing acceptance speech to turn this her way. Like it was cute at the beginning, and my mom's FaceTiming, so she can. That's cute, but it just wasn't enough to like.
She was also being very quick as well.
Yeah. But I think Frances nailed it, and
I actually think if anybody's going to take down Frances McDormand, I think Frances McDormand is probably one of the biggest locks of the Oscar night. But I think if anybody is a threat to take her down, I actually think it's Margot Robbie. Yeah. I think Margot Robbie would. That is a performance that is just getting everybody's attention.
But she needed that Globe. I don't think she can win SAG.
Well, she won. She did. She did beat Saoirse at Critics' Choice last night in the comedy category. So
but she needed it on a far more televised evening. She needed that Globe and to get up there and give like the kick-ass acceptance speech that's going to keep that steamroll going, and she just didn't get that chance.
It hurt her. You're right. It did hurt her, but
and
I think
she's not going to win.
A slight chance.
She's not going to be able, unfortunately, get past Hawkins or Ronan at BAFTA. So that was her chance to kind of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Can I ask something about Best Actress while we're on the subject?
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Let's go. Is Meryl Streep out?
No.
Or is, no. I was curious.
Never.
Like,
as a nominee, no. But as a winner, do you think she's out as a winner? She's out.
We would have to see like Sally Hawkins win, and then somebody.
What happened to Sally Hawkins? Like, she was a front runner about a month ago, right? Before all the awards started falling out. Her performance is fantastic. I didn't love that film, but I loved the performance.
She did her whole campaign in American Sign, and no one heard it.
No one heard it.
She's Sally Hawkins is another one that isn't a campaigner. She's not going to the stuff, and she's much more understated, I guess.
She does have some respect. She made a short film that won one of the live action shorts and waived her fee, and
I think she might take BAFTA.
That's right. Yeah,
she'll probably take BAFTA. You're right.
I'd still look out for Ronan. They've nominated her 3 times. She's the only really, I think, adversary right now for Frances McDormand.
But it's in a movie that they did not love overall at BAFTA.
So is Hugh Grant going to get an Oscar nomination? Like, how?
What happened there?
Actually, speaking of supporting actor, I do want to ask, what's going on with Willem Dafoe? What happened there?
It's now or never at SAG.
Is it because Florida Project?
No, the now or never point was last night, because the one thing that we've been seeing, one absolutely consistent thing that we have seen with these critics groups has been Willem Dafoe and supporting actor. Even the supporting actress have gone on some of their own their own little paths. Like New York went with Tiffany Haddish for Girls Trip.
Good for them.
But Willem Dafoe should have been the obvious winner for Critics' Choice for supporting actor. Sam Rockwell has that now, and I think he's locked that up.
I just want to see how it happens with the fellow actors. But
don't you think Florida Project is pretty much done? Like, it's not as popular with the guilds and the industry as it was with the critics. And
I mean, Brooklyn Prince was adorable, and I think her and Jacob Tremblay. I saw those pictures of them together. I'm like, in 10+ years, they would make such a cute couple. Like, I think
Florida Projects. I think that for that movie, its only real hope is a passionate show of support, the way that we saw for a film like Room, which missed at the Producers Guild and the Directors Guild and was ineligible for the Writers Guild. But there were still enough people who loved that movie to put it into Best Picture and for director and writing.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see Baker sneak in the Best Director category. That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah,
that'd be very much a Beast of No Nation. That'd be like a Beast of No Nation getting in.
Let's talk about Best Director.
But the other thing about supporting actor I wanted to say about SAG is it'll be interesting to see how Rockwell does while having another one of his co-stars up in the category, someone who also has been working in the industry for decades.
And he might not have had the year that like Michael Stuhlbarg has, but he was in War of the Planet of the Apes. He was in The Glass Castle. He's done.
His performance got good reviews for Wilson. Even though the movie wasn't very well received.
And I think you can't count out Christopher Plummer, because if he sneaks in with that BAFTA,
I think he's going to be
absolutely. I think that 5 we saw at BAFTA will be the 5 minus Hugh Grant. No, not Hugh Grant. But I'm thinking of. I forgot somebody was ineligible, but still, I think we're going to see the 4 from SAG minus Steve Carell, and then put in Christopher Plummer.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody here still have Armie Hammer in their predictions for supporting actor?
No.
I think I'm still holding on to him a little, just because I can't let go of that.
Is anyone afraid that Mary J. Blige is going to get snubbed? Because I'm really starting to be afraid.
Yes.
When she didn't get that BAFTA nod, I'm almost ready to drop her out.
Well, nobody from Mudbound got a BAFTA nod, so
I know.
And how ridiculous!
Yeah.
I'm going to be even more upset about the cinematography one than I will about
Rachel
Mary
Morrison. Just at least nominate her, please.
I swear to God.
Was Mudbound eligible at the BAFTAs?
I don't know.
It's
I
on
mean,
Netflix.
if
BAFTA has a
to-
strange relationship with Netflix. You know,
Right.
They
nominated Beast of No Nation. They nominated Idris Elba. Like they had, I mean, Idris
it
Elba
was
did
eligible.
everything.
Can
Yeah.
I ask? I mean, just speaking about that, and you know, it's a point I wanted to bring up about Three Billboards. You know, we saw the Golden Globes, which is the Hollywood Foreign Press, go for this European view of America's problems. BAFTA has done the same thing. Is this just like outsider perspectives that are propelling this movie to these victories and all these BAFTA nominations? Is that maybe what hurt Mudbound? It's such an American story.
Yeah, I think so. You know, with Three Billboards, it won most of the Australian Academy Awards as well. No one cares about that, but I'm just saying, like, it's another outsider perspective. Like, it resonated here, like it's resonated in the UK, and it's resonated with the foreign press. Many of whom are either English or Australian, by the way. And I think that's a very, very good point. Mudbound is a very, very American story told from an American perspective, an African American perspective. And it took a while for me to get into it because I didn't understand a lot of the history and context and background. You guys don't have that problem necessarily if you're educated and, you know, in the US. But then I was able to recognize still that it's a beautiful film. It's an incredible film, and it's just kind of being ignored across the board, which is really, really sad. But that's a good point.
The problem with Mudbound is it's not undeniable. Like, if it gets snubbed, it's going to be a shame, but it's not going to be like, what in the freaking bleeping is wrong with these people? It's not going to be one of those kind of things where everyone is just so up in arms about it that it's going to cause this much duress. The problem Netflix, this is the same problem they have at the Emmys, is they just dump this stuff out there and hope for the best.
Well, could it be that it's helped in a sense? We know that they've brought in all these new younger voters who do not have a bias against Netflix. In fact, are part of, I guess, the Netflix generation, if you want to go so far as to call it that. This could be a real test for this new membership. If Mudbound can get into supporting actress and screenplay and cinematography, song, and maybe even, dare I say it, if 200 people put it as their #1 movie, Best Picture. Do you think that?
But there's still 4,000 other voters. That's the problem.
It's possible, like, if it has enough passionate support in some of those categories, yes. Like, and here's the thing, like, Frances McDormand in her speech at the Globe, didn't she say something about seeing a film in a cinema, and isn't that a novel idea? Like, that was very kind of, it was obvious that what she was talking about, but, like, why is everyone so angry about this? Like, Netflix is just another player, and it's making beautiful films, giving people jobs. What's the fucking problem? I can't believe this is a narrative for this film and for Beasts of No Nation.
Well, I think it's just this purist, and there are hipsters out there who think that, you know, this, like, oh, if a movie isn't shown in a theater, you've never really experienced. Well, half of us haven't seen the classics in theaters, like, seriously. So you're telling me I've never seen The Sound of Music correctly when I've seen it over 200 times. Like, you're telling me I don't understand that movie because it's never played. I've never been able to see it in the theater.
200 times is incorrect.
I know.
Well,
I can recite the last 10 minutes for you, but I've never seen the movie. Like that.
It's a stupid argument. I agree.
What's interesting with Mudbound is that's a movie that I actually think benefits from seeing on the big screen.
I do have to say, it is a different experience. Like, I had seen The Sound of Music infinite number of times, and when I did see it in the theater with an audience, it was a different experience.
Yeah,
well,
no, that's undeniable.
I want to see it in the theater.
Let me just say this as well.
Do you live in LA, Amanda? You should come to the American Cinematheque. Oh.
Ooh, that sounds like a fun trip. We can go see movies.
There you go.
Let me say this, though, about the whole Netflix thing. What do we talk about all the time in regards to the most important thing about getting Oscar voters to see your movie? What are the things that we talk about over and over and over and over again, ad nauseum? The importance of sending out screeners.
Correct.
Right? Of them having DVDs so that they can watch these movies on their television screens. So, I mean, the idea that, well, I mean, you know, it's important for you to send out the DVDs, but it's not so important that they can watch it on Netflix. It's just, it strikes me as a little bit absurd.
But there is a golden lining to this cloud if the movie gets snubbed. I was reading the Emmy rules because I'm a nerd. There is nothing stopping it from entering TV movie. There is absolutely nothing stopping Mudbound from going, We didn't do well at the Oscars. Screw it. Mary J. Blige, how would you like an Emmy?
Well, before we started,
Well, and you have to
There
think
is
about that. The movie-
absolutely nothing stopping it. And I hope they do it
Right.
so they
They
can
didn't.
stop it forever.
Well, and look at all the movies that were made for television that would have been fine on the screen. I mean, Angels in America would have been amazing.
Behind the Candelabra, they said that movie
Behind the
was-
Candelabra, there you go.
They said
I mean,
no audience would go see that movie. I would have gone and seen that movie. Are you kidding me? I would have gone to the theater and watched that.
So, I mean, you have to think, should Behind the Candelabra, even though it was made for television, should it have been considered for the Oscars?
Matt Damon received a BAFTA nomination for the film category for that. So it's
Outside the U.S., it was a theatrical release.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think the problem is, and I understand all of this stuff, but it comes back down to what is television and what is film. And we've seen this problem with the documentary categories.
but the thing is that Mudbound was not made for television. Mudbound was acquired by Netflix out of Sundance because they were the only people who would pay the money. This movie was made for something like $15 million. They were the only people who would pay that amount of money in order to release the film. You should not punish the movie and say that it is any less cinematic just for the fact that Netflix was the only distributor that would put up the money for it.
But I think
they
the way
did.
that
They
Netflix
did.
is
They
then
did release it. They did. It did play in several screens in, I want to say, LA and New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it played in several theaters out here. I wasn't directing that anger was directed at the Academy for ignoring this movie, not at you fine people.
And that movie is a hard movie to get through. I mean, it's not just the film. It is, that first hour is tough to get to that second hour, which is really explosive.
Let me.
what a shame.
I want to
Oh,
switch track here before we start talking about the Emmys for this year.
I'm just saying, why not do it? Why not? Why
So,
not?
Well,
They at
let me-
least get some awards. Steve
anyways.
Reese would get nominated.
so speaking of which,
Okay,
Best
I'll-
Director,
Yeah, I want to talk about
DGA 5. Rob, I know you wanted to talk about this. I want to talk about it too because it's my favorite category.
this. Me too.
DGA
Del
5.
Toro has it in the bag.
So we've got nominated Guillermo del Toro, Christopher Nolan, Martin McDonagh, Greta Gerwig, Jordan Peele. Rob, are those the 5 that are going to get nominated at the Oscars? Who is going to get left out?
I think my answer is yes, but no. So yes, I think they're the most likely. But what fascinates me, and I haven't fact checked this yet, but I was looking at a post by Awards Watch by Eric Anderson, a good friend of ours, on Facebook, and he noted that there are 7 directors since 2000 who have missed Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, DJ, and BAFTA, and still got nominated at the Oscars. So Pedro Almodovar, Fernando Morales, Jason Reitman, Terrence Malick, Ben Zeitlin, Bennett Miller, and Lenny Abrahamson. And that bodes well for someone like Baker. It also bodes well for someone like Guadagnino, who, yes, he was nominated at BAFTA and Critics' Choice, but missed out at DGA. And I'm thinking that the directors, as we all very well know, they do love to go their own way. They are more indie than the rest of the Academy, and definitely more indie than the DGA, who include a much vaster array of helmers across the spectrum of TV and film. And so the Directors Guild, the Directors Branch have nominated directors like David Lynch, and those nominations for people like Lenny Abrahamson, who came kind of out of nowhere a couple of years ago. So that gives me some pause about this DGA lineup. It's a good lineup. It's not like I'm suggesting someone like Dee Rees is going to make it in. I don't think she's there anymore, which is really sad. But the 2 things that come out of the DGA are great. Greta Gerwig made it in, so that helps. Now we have to hear all the bullshit arguments about she only got nominated because of the Me Too movement. That's rubbish. And secondly, it's looking good for Guillermo del Toro to kind of make that triple crown for the Mexican Three Amigo narrative, which people love to follow as well. So there's a lot going on in the director category that really excites me.
You bring up Sean
Did that answer
Baker,
your question?
And you bring up Sean Baker, and I wanted to make this point about why it wouldn't be surprising if he got nominated. What do Lenny Abrahamson and Ben Zeitlin both have in common? They made movies that starred children. which is what Sean Baker did with the Florida Project. I have two theories about the director's bench of the Academy, having followed them my whole life. Number one, they definitely nominate their heroes, and they nominate people that they admire. They love foreign directors like Guadagnino and Villeneuve. I think they also nominate people who direct films, and they say to themselves, wow, that must have been very difficult to direct. So, I mean, you look at somebody like a Christopher Nolan or a Guillermo del Toro, you look at somebody like a Villeneuve, and you look at somebody like a Sean Baker, because they know how difficult it is to direct children. So who are some of our wild cards that we're not talking about here, and who is the most vulnerable to get left off of the lineup? Who has thoughts on this? Tony, haven't heard from you in a while.
I think history will tell us that the likelihood of those exact five, going on to the Oscar nominations is unlikely. And then when you start to think about who could get left off, the only one that I think is 100% safe is Del Toro. But I think there are vulnerabilities among the other four. Lady Bird has not picked up the momentum that it should have had, and I think Gerwig could be vulnerable, although if they leave her off, I think that would be equally
I've already got my draft ready of that article.
Peele directing Get Out, you could make an argument that he could be rewarded in the screenplay category, and leaving him out would maybe be less egregious than, who do you leave out? Do you leave out the black director, or do you leave out the woman director?
Right? Yeah.
Problematic.
Oh my God.
McDonough, I don't think anybody looks at Three Billboards as necessarily like a huge directorial achievement. That's more of a writing achievement. So that could be some vulnerability for him. Even, I hate to say this, I think even Nolan could be vulnerable.
Rob's going to curse at you. I've been telling him this for months, and he has cursed me out multiple times.
But I prefaced it with I hate to say that.
Yeah, because things move on, right? That's what happened. Tony's right. And so are you, Amanda. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have Nolan in my lineup right now.
Charlie, explain. Please tell us who you've got.
Well, it's just like, this is even when he had a movie that was safe to get nominated in Best Picture, Inception, he still missed out for that one, and it seems like this is one that just could fall by the wayside, because Dunkirk has lost a lot of momentum with these televised ceremonies, just getting nominated but not getting a big win anywhere. So I think that it's increasingly likely that he could be the one that's left out. Now, in that spot right now, I have, because I have Del Toro, Gerwig, Peele, and McDonough. In that spot right now, I have Spielberg. But
I was going to say, is Spielberg the one that takes the fifth spot?
I think normally it would be Spielberg, but I think they might go Ridley Scott. I think he might be the Bennett Miller of this year, where maybe the movie doesn't get nominated. And I would even put an asterisk by he didn't win Critics' Choice. He wasn't nominated for Critics' Choice, Globe, or BAFTA. He won Cannes. So that probably helped him stick around in those 500 people's minds. But I think there's something about what Ridley Scott did. And he even spoke out he was upset with Mark Wahlberg for this. He said, I thought everyone was doing this for free, that we were all in this together. So I think if there is one person this year who gets in without his film getting nominated, it is Ridley Scott. And I think that I agree with Tony, but I think Martin McDonough, it's not a big CGI fair, but there is something about the way it's done. There is some style to it, and it's not, the biggest thing like we see winning at the Emmys too. And
well, it's also every year. I mean, you could make the argument. It's not the biggest directorial achievement there is. It's more of a writer's achievement. But it also you see people like Kenneth Lonergan getting nominated for Manchester by the Sea, or
Barry Jenkins.
Well, Barry, that's a much better directed movie.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that there's not CGI. There's no big thing.
I meant in terms of
there. It's
no, I get you. I was just.
It's more subtly directed than I think these movies that are like heavy in effects are.
Well, I mean, Moonlight has more of a, not to relitigate all of that, but it has more of like a European feel to it. You know what I mean?
You know, you worked all of your magic to get.
I did, yeah.
You don't get a. I just want to see this happen this year because you did something we don't understand last year. So.
I do want to bring up I do want to talk about Ridley Scott though, actually, because I mean he, is somebody who has never won an Oscar before, and he is one of the last great filmmakers to not have an Oscar. He had a pretty high-profile snub with The Martian a couple of years ago, and I think that when you talk about directors wanting to reward people, we say, "Wow, that must have been really tough." I mean, what director would not look at somebody reshooting half of their movie? Which, by the way, the whole Mark Wahlberg stuff, if anybody deserved $2 million, it was freaking Christopher Plummer. For, I mean, you can't tell me Mark Wahlberg did more work than Plummer did in that. But anyway, could he actually have a shot of getting nominated?
Wait, you know how much money Christopher Plummer deserved? All the money in the world.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner.
All the proceeds of the movie.
Charles,
I think when we look at the director, we have to ask ourselves, okay, who, if not the 5 that are at DGA, who are the likely ones that could go in? And I think, I think we've all mentioned the ones that are possible. Spielberg, although I think the Post has really crashed and burned.
Is it gone? Is the Post gone? I mean,
no, because I think we're still going to see Meryl Streep, and we're probably going to see it in the picture run. But
that'll be about it.
But I think it'll score a healthy load of nominations on Oscar morning. It just is now no longer really in the conversation as a winner.
Tony, please back to what you said.
Well, I think Spielberg's a possibility. I think Ridley Scott's definitely a possibility. I think Guadagnino could slip in there. They do love their. I think Call Me by Your Name is certainly the most similar stylistically to something they like Amour or Moonlight, in terms of being quiet, atmospheric, kind of a slow burn. So, but God, it's such a difficult thing to see. Like, who do you take out without there being this huge uproar?
Mm-hmm. And also,
I think for as much as everybody wants to say, "Oh, this is a bad year," it's not really a bad year.
I think it's a very good year because we don't know anything.
Heavy loaded. I think it was just really heavy loaded in the last 2 months. But you know what? Wouldn't it be the most ironic thing if Denis Villeneuve got in over Ridley Scott for Ridley Scott's gonna want to choke him. I'm sorry, but
I just want the quote from Ridley Scott to be, "I'm as surprised as you are."
But I think there's a lot of young directors who could go, God, 9 days, reshoot my whole half my movie. You got to give it up to that guy. I mean, he might not write, he might not produce these things, but that's a big accomplishment. There's probably some.
And also, it was interesting. I was hearing something about this in a podcast the other day, where Ridley Scott is a director's director. He doesn't wait 3-4 years between films. I mean, he had 2 films out just this year. He had The Martian out, 2 years ago. He is constantly working. So there is and the fact that he's almost 80, over 80.
He is 80. Yeah.
He is 80. So I mean, he has more of an output than a lot of these auteur filmmakers that we talk about that only put out a movie every 2 or 3 or 4 years.
But could that also hurt him that he's more like the hired help than he's the one like Steven Spielberg who doesn't write, but he produces, he's cultivating, he's looking for these projects. I mean, that might be one of the things that's held him back a little bit for winning.
That also brings up an interesting point, is if he is viewed this way, how come he missed out for The Martian a couple of years ago?
Right.
That's still I don't think I don't think that is the thing. I don't think that should mean that we automatically disqualify him now. If you're bringing up all these points, you got to think to yourself, how if he is really viewed that way and respected that way, how did he get left out?
Do you think The
on
Martian might have had a backlash for being the comedy?
I have a theory about that, actually. And it's the same theory for why Ben Affleck was left out for Argo. And why we sometimes see really high-profile snubs. I think that when you're a voter, and we can blame ourselves for this because we had, Ridley Scott predicted it #1 for a long time to win Best Director. And this could hurt any number of people in the running this year, any number of the DGA 5. If you're a voter and you say to yourself, well, I know Ridley Scott is going to win for The Martian. He doesn't need my vote. I'm going to vote for Lenny Abramson instead. I think or in Ben Affleck's case, it's like, well, Ben Affleck, everyone knows he's going to get nominated, so I'm going to vote for Michael Haneke instead. I think that hurts you when you are so far and away a front runner. People forget you really do need to vote for these folks if you want to see them nominated.
I thought it was a backlash for The Martian, but I agree.
Well, it could be.
Yeah, he's just never had a really good record at any of these award shows.
He is, though. I would say I would push back against. I know this isn't what any of you were trying to say at all, but I think that a lot of people do admire him as more than just the hired help. I think that one of the things that is so great about him is that he's been able to adapt his style to so many different kinds of films and genres.
So many classic movies in his filmography.
Yeah.
I was just throwing it out there as like a theory. I'm not saying I love his movies.
I think he is underrated for that reason, mind you. I
think that they might take him for granted, but I will just say this, and I know it's not a popular opinion, but I think sometimes the Oscars are elevated by the people who don't win, who never win, like the Peter O'Toole's, and right now the Ridley Scotts. Not everyone should win an Oscar.
Speaking of
Hitchcock,
makes it more. Yeah, I mean, I don't love the movie Hitchcock, but I love that one scene where he's like, every year I go and every year they won't give me the one thing I want.
It's true.
Speaking of Peter O'Toole, we didn't talk about Best Actor. Is that done? Is that just Gary Oldman's to lose, or
it's his to lose?
As long as
Pretty
there's
much,
nothing. Yeah. I mean, these things can be almost semi like a political campaign. Like usually it just takes one thing to like screw it up. I know Russell Crowe remembers very well what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as nothing comes up, he looks good.
I at first had thought that there was a possibility that Franco could pull off an upset at SAG if anybody was going to upset Oldman. But that was on Sunday night that I thought that.
Me too.
Yeah. Now I am firmly off that train. I just think this is Oldman's to lose unless somehow someone upsets him at SAG. I don't think that's going to happen.
Or something's happened, or he's either does something in the next couple of weeks, or something comes out. Like we really just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even death won't stop this from happening.
Well, death won't stop it, but if he's been doing some of the stuff that other people have been up to, that could definitely.
Well, we've talked for about an hour, so I say we let the audience off the hook, and we can continue this conversation off air. Amanda Spears, Tony Ruiz, Charlie Bright, Jack Field, and Rob Licuria, thank you all so much.